The stars looked cold and distant from the command deck of the Serenity Prime defense station. Ambassador Veltar pressed his four-fingered hands against the viewing window and watched the last of their ships return from another failed battle. 3 more vessels lost. 47 crew members who would never see their families again. The Vexi are moving closer, reported Commander Thylosa, her voice tight with fear. Our scouts estimate they will reach the planet in less than 6 days. Veltar's people, the Cathara, had always been peaceful. They grew food, built beautiful cities, and studied the stars. They had never needed to learn about war. Now they were paying the price for their peaceful nature. How many ships do we have left? Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer would break his heart. 17, Thylosa replied. The Vexi have over 200 ships waiting just outside our solar system. They are playing with us, sir. They could attack now and finish us in hours. The Vexi Empire had been growing for decades. They were insects tall as trees with shells like black metal and minds that thought only of conquest. They turned peaceful worlds into mining operations and enslaved entire species. Some worlds surrendered without a fight. Others fought and died. The Cathara had chosen to fight. It was not going well. Sir, called Communications Officer Narvek from across the room. We are receiving reports from our colonies. The Vexi have attacked the farming worlds of New Garden and Peaceful Valley. Both planets have fallen. The insects are loading our people onto transport ships. Veltar closed his eyes. New Garden had 3 million Kithra living there. Peaceful Valley had 2 million. All of them were now slaves or worse. The council is meeting in 1 hour, Thylosa said quietly. They want to discuss surrender terms. No, Veltar said firmly. We will not surrender. Not while there is still hope. But was there hope? The Cathara Confederation was made up of 7 peaceful species. The Heron were excellent engineers but had never built weapons. The Dalian grew the galaxy's best food, but knew nothing about fighting. The Quintal were artists and musicians. None of them were warriors. They had sent messages to every military power in the galaxy. The Terran Federation was too far away. The Altrurian Republic was fighting their own war. The Centauri Alliance had ignored their calls completely. Most civilizations did not want to anger the Vexi Empire. Sir, Narvek called again. I am receiving a broad-spectrum message from the Vexi fleet. Put it on the main screen, Veltar ordered. The image that appeared made several bridge officers step backward in fear. Hive Lord Zexthal was 8 feet tall, with 6 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. His black shell was covered in scars from 100 battles. His 4 compound eyes glowed with cruel intelligence. Little grass eaters. Zexthal spoke in the common galactic language, his voice like grinding metal. You have fought bravely, but your time is over. In 4 days, my fleet will arrive at your world. You have a choice. Surrender now, and I will let half your population live as slaves. Continue to fight, and I will turn your planet into ash and bones. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent except for the soft sounds of several officers crying. Commander, Veltar said, send out the emergency signal on all frequencies. Maximum power. If there's anyone in the galaxy who can help us, they need to hear this. Sir, we have already sent requests to every major power. No one is coming. Then we send to everyone. Major powers, minor worlds, anyone who might listen. Include our exact location, our tactical situation, and... Veltar paused. And tell them we are offering everything we have. Our technology, our resources, our friendship. Anything if they will help us save our people. The next 3 hours passed slowly. Narvek sent the message to over 3,000 different worlds and space stations. Most did not reply at all. A few sent messages of sympathy but no help. The Baraki Union offered to accept refugees after the planet fell. The Merchant Guild offered to buy Kythra technology at reduced prices. Sir, Narvek said suddenly, his voice excited, I am receiving a response. It is strange. Strange how? The transmission is coming from a region marked as unexplored space on our charts. The signal is very strong, but the ship seems to be alone. And sir, they claim to be human. Veltar had never heard of humans. Put the message through. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and clear. It belonged to a female, though her words were spoken in a way that seemed almost mechanical. Cathra Defense Command. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution. We have received your distress call. Help is coming. Prepare defensive positions around your major cities and begin evacuating non-combatants to underground shelters. We will arrive in 36 hours. The bridge crew looked at each other in confusion. Who are these humans? Thylosa whispered. Unknown species, replied Science Officer Karthek, working quickly at his station. I am searching our databases now. So this is very strange. I found a few old exploration reports. The planet they come from is listed as Earth, but it is classified as a Class 13 death world. Veltar felt cold. Death worlds were planets so dangerous that they should not support intelligent life. They had extreme weather, deadly plants and animals, toxic air or water, or all of these things together. Only a few species in the galaxy came from death worlds, and they were all considered dangerous. What else does the report say? Very little, sir. The planet was surveyed 200 years ago by a Centauri exploration ship. They classified the dominant species as apex predators. The report says the planet is so dangerous that most galactic species would die within minutes of landing there. Apex predators? Thylosa asked. You mean they hunt other animals for food? More than that, Karthek replied, his voice getting quieter. According to this, they are persistence hunters. They chase their prey for hours or days until the animal dies of exhaustion. The report also mentions that they are one of the few species that evolved from pack hunters. Pack hunters. Veltar knew what that meant. Most intelligent species evolved from animals that ate plants or small creatures. Pack hunters worked together to kill things larger and stronger than themselves. They were smart, organized, and ruthless. Sir? Narvek interrupted. I am receiving another transmission from the human ship. They are requesting detailed information about Vexi tactics, weapons, and fleet composition. Send them everything we have, Veltar ordered. If they are really coming to help us, they need to know what they are facing. But as the information was transmitted, Veltar found himself wondering if they had made a terrible mistake. The Vexi were monsters, but at least they were monsters he understood. They wanted slaves and resources. But what did apex predators from a death world want? And what would they expect in return for their help? Sir, the humans are also requesting permission to interrogate any Vexi prisoners we might have. Veltar shivered. The way the human captain had said interrogate made it sound like something much worse than asking questions. How many ships are they bringing? He asked. Unknown, sir, but based on the signal strength, it appears to be only one vessel. One ship against 200 Vexi warships. Either these humans were incredibly brave, incredibly stupid, or incredibly dangerous. As night fell over Serenity Prime, Veltar stood alone on the observation deck and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, help was coming. He just hoped that when it arrived, they would still recognize it as help. The last message from Captain Chen had been brief. Stay strong. We specialize in impossible odds. Veltar did not know what that meant, but he was about to find out. The alarm started screaming at exactly 0347 hours ship time. Veltar rushed to the command deck, still wearing his sleeping robes. The last time the alarms had sounded like this, 3 Vexi scout ships had appeared in their system. Report, he called out as he reached his command station. Sir, we have 3 unknown vessels appearing at the edge of our sensor range, reported Thylosa. They just dropped out of hyperspace. The energy signatures do not match any ships in our database. Vexi? No, sir. These ships are different. They are not broadcasting any identification signals, and they appear to be running completely silent. No active sensors, no communications, nothing. Veltar looked at the main display screen. 3 small dots moved slowly toward their planet. The ships looked tiny compared to the massive Vexi vessels that had been terrorizing them for weeks. Are they responding to our communications? No, sir, but wait. Narvek pressed his earpiece closer to his head. Sir, I am receiving a transmission on a secure military frequency. They are asking for permission to approach the station. Who is it? They identify themselves as the Human Fleet. Human Fleet? 3 small ships against 200 Vexi warships? Veltar wondered if these humans were insane. Grant them permission to dock, and send a security team to meet them. Full diplomatic protocol. 20 minutes later, Veltar stood in the main docking bay waiting for his first meeting with apex predators from a death world. He had read everything their computers could find about Earth and humans during the night. The information had not helped him sleep. Humans had evolved on a planet with extreme weather, dangerous animals, and natural disasters that could destroy entire cities. They had survived by becoming the most successful hunters their planet had ever produced. They hunted creatures 10 times their size. They hunted in groups. They hunted during the day and during the night. Some reports suggested they even hunted other humans. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 figures stepped through. Veltar had expected monsters. What he saw instead were beings that looked almost ordinary. They were shorter than Kithara, with only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was various shades of brown and pink. They had hair on their heads and small eyes that looked forward instead of to the sides, but something about them made every alarm in Veltar's mind start ringing. The female in front moved like a hunter. Her eyes swept the docking bay, noting every exit, every person, every possible threat. Her hand rested casually near what was obviously a weapon on her belt. Her 2 companions spread out slightly, giving themselves room to fight if needed. "Ambassador Veltar," the female said. Her voice was the same one he had heard on the radio. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution. These are my officers, Commander Williams and Lieutenant Patel." "Welcome to Serenity Prime," Veltar replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We are grateful that you have come to help us." Something that might have been a smile crossed the captain's face. "Help is what we do, though I should warn you, our methods might seem extreme compared to what you are used to." As they walked toward the conference room, Veltar noticed more disturbing things about his guests. All 3 humans carried weapons, not ceremonial weapons or tools that could be used as weapons in an emergency, but actual military weapons designed for killing. They wore what looked like armor under their uniforms. Most disturbing of all, they moved through the station like they were already planning how to defend it or attack from it. "Your message said the Vexi fleet has over 200 ships," Captain Chen said as they sat down in the conference room. "Can you give us more specific numbers?" 214 according to our last count, Thylosa replied, "plus support vessels and troop transports." "Good," said Commander Williams. It was the first word he had spoken, and his tone made it sound like he thought 200 enemy ships was somehow positive news. "Good?" Veltar asked. "We prefer opponents who group their ships together," Lieutenant Patel explained. "It makes targeting more efficient." Veltar felt confused. These humans were talking about fighting a fleet that outnumbered them more than 70 to 1, and they seemed almost excited about it. "Captain Chen," he said carefully, "how many ships are in your fleet?" "3. 3? Only 3 ships to fight over 200 Vexi vessels?" Captain Chen looked at him with those forward-facing predator eyes. "Ambassador, how many wolves does it take to kill a herd of sheep?" The question made Veltar's stomach feel cold. I do not understand." "You will," she replied. "Now we need to discuss the rules of engagement. Are there any Vexi positions that must not be attacked? Civilian areas? Sacred sites?" "The Vexi do not have civilians," Thylosa answered. "Their entire society is military-based, and they do not consider anything sacred except conquest." "Perfect," said Commander Williams. "What about prisoners?" Veltar asked. "If Vexi surrender, you will accept their surrender, yes?" The 3 humans looked at each other. Captain Chen spoke slowly. "Ambassador, in our experience, the Vexi do not surrender. They fight until they are dead or until they are too broken to fight anymore. If any of them try to surrender, we will accept it. But I would not plan for that possibility." "Broken?" Veltar asked. "Psychologically damaged," Lieutenant Patel explained in a helpful tone. "When pack hunters attack hive mind species, the prey often experiences collective trauma that makes them unable to function as a group." Veltar was beginning to understand why these humans had been willing to travel across the galaxy to fight the Vexi. They were not coming to help peaceful farmers fight off raiders. They were coming because they were hunters, and someone had just pointed them toward prey. "Captain, what do you need from us?" "Stay out of our way," she replied. "Keep your people in the shelters," we suggested. "Do not try to help us during the battle. Do not try to communicate with us during the battle. And whatever you see or hear, remember that we are on your side." "What do you mean, whatever we see or hear?" Captain Chen stood up. "We have been fighting wars for longer than your species has had spaceflight. We have learned that sometimes, to protect innocent people, you have to do things that innocent people should not see." As the humans prepared to leave, Veltar noticed something else that made his skin crawl. When Captain Chen had talked about fighting wars, her heart rate had not increased. Her breathing had not changed. Her voice had stayed perfectly calm. She was talking about battle and death the same way he might talk about growing crops or building houses. "Captain," he called out as they reached the door, "why did you come? Why risk your lives for strangers?" She turned back to him. "Because that is what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Vexi picked on the wrong species when they decided to attack peaceful farmers. After the humans left, the conference room was silent for several minutes. "Sir," Thylosa finally whispered, "I think we may have made a mistake. These humans are not like us. They are not like anyone we have ever met." "What do you mean?" "They are not afraid of the Vexi at all. They are looking forward to the battle, and the way they talked about the enemy." She shivered. It was like they were discussing how to prepare food, not how to fight a war. Veltar nodded slowly. He was beginning to realize that they had not called for rescue. They had called for predators. The question now was whether predators who hunted their enemies would remember to protect their friends. "Sir," Narvek called from his station, "the human ships are moving to positions between our planet and the approaching Vexi fleet. And, sir, they are broadcasting something on all frequencies." "What are they broadcasting?" "Music, sir. Very loud, very aggressive music. And, sir, the Vexi fleet has slowed down. They seem confused." Veltar closed his eyes. The hunters had arrived, and they were already playing with their prey. Hive Lord Zexthul stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. 3 small ships had positioned themselves between his fleet and the target planet. 3 ships against his armada of 214 vessels. "Inferior beings," he clicked to his sub-commanders. "They must be insane to think they can stop us." Hive Lord reported his intelligence officer. "We have identified the ships. They belong to a species called humans. Our databases have very little information about them." "What do the databases say?" "Only that they come from a Class 218 death world called Earth. There are no records of them ever engaging in large-scale warfare." Zexthul's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Death world species are usually good fighters, but they lack organization. They fight like wild animals instead of proper soldiers. This will be easy." But as his fleet moved closer to engagement range, strange things began to happen. First, the human ships disappeared from his sensors. Not destroyed, not retreating, just gone. His best equipment could not track them anymore. Second, his communications networks began receiving transmissions on all frequencies. The sounds that came through were unlike anything in the Vexi databases. Loud, harsh music with heavy rhythms and vocals that sounded like battle cries. His communications officers reported that the sounds were having a disturbing effect on the hive mind network. "Turn off the receivers," Zexthul ordered. "We cannot, Hive Lord. The transmissions are too strong. They are overwhelming our equipment." Third, and most disturbing, his scouts began reporting that ships were being attacked by invisible enemies. The first ship to be hit was the destroyer Nightblade. It had been on the outer edge of the formation when something struck its weapon systems. The ship was not destroyed, just disabled. When they sent rescue ships, they found the crew alive but terrified. "They came out of nowhere," the ship's captain reported. "Fast, silent, like ghosts. They disabled our weapons, our engines, our communications. Then they left. But before they left, they spoke to us." "What did they say?" Zexthul demanded. "They said this is a warning. Leave now or we will stop being polite." "Polite? What kind of warriors called disabling a warship being polite?" More ships reported attacks. The pattern was always the same. The human vessels would appear without warning, strike with incredible precision, disable critical systems, and disappear again. They never destroyed ships completely. They never killed crews unless the Vexi fired first, but they left each ship helpless and drifting. "How are they doing this?" Zexthul demanded of his science officers. "Unknown, Hive Lord. Their technology appears to be designed specifically for stealth warfare. They are using weapons we have never seen before. Electromagnetic pulse weapons that disable our electronics without destroying them. Targeted energy beams that can cut through our armor, but stop exactly at the hull without hitting the crew inside. And something our computers are calling kinetic bombardment." "What is kinetic bombardment?" "They are shooting pieces of metal at our ships. Very fast pieces of metal. No explosives, no energy weapons, just metal moving at tremendous speed. It is incredibly effective." Zexthul's compound eyes focused on the tactical display. In 2 hours, 27 of his ships had been disabled. The humans were picking off his fleet ship by ship like predators separating prey from a herd. "All ships, attack formation Omega. Find these humans and destroy them." But even when his ship spread out and began actively hunting, the humans remained invisible. They appeared only to attack, then vanished again before his forces could respond. Worse, they seemed to be toying with his fleet. They would disable a ship's weapons but leave its sensors working, so the crew could watch helplessly as their allies were hunted. The music never stopped. The strange human sounds filled every communication channel, making it difficult for his commanders to coordinate. Some of his officers reported that the sounds were giving them what humans apparently called nightmares, even while they were awake. "Hive Lord," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are requesting communication. Put them through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and pleasant, like someone discussing the weather. "Hive Lord Zexthul, this is Captain Sarah Chen. You have exactly one opportunity to withdraw your fleet from this system. If you leave now, we will allow your damaged ships to limp home." "Human female," Zexthul snarled. "You are outnumbered 70-1. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick." "I appreciate the offer," Captain Chen replied, "but we really prefer it when our enemies choose to do this the hard way. It is much more satisfying." The transmission ended. What happened next would be talked about in Vexi nightmares for generations. The humans stopped being subtle. All 3 human ships appeared at once, diving into the center of the Vexi formation like apex predators attacking a herd. But instead of the chaotic assault Zexthul expected, their attack was perfectly coordinated. The ships moved like they were connected by invisible threads, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They did not try to destroy his ships. Instead, they systematically hunted his fleet like pack animals.
One human ship would disable a group of vessels while the other 2 cut off escape routes.
When Vexi ships tried to mass together for protection, the humans would strike at the edges, forcing the formation apart. The humans used weapons that Zexthul had never imagined. They fired missiles that did not explode on impact but instead burrowed into ships and released gas that made the crews unconscious. They used energy weapons that could slice through the strongest armor like it was made of paper. Most terrifying of all, they used their ships themselves as weapons, ramming Vexi vessels at impossible speeds and somehow surviving the impacts. "They are not fighting like soldiers," his tactical officer reported in a panic. "They are fighting like wild animals, but with perfect organization. How is that possible?" "Unknown, Hive Lord. Our analysis suggests they are using a combination of advanced technology and combat instincts that we do not understand." Within 4 hours, half of Zexthul's fleet was disabled and drifting. The humans had not destroyed a single ship completely, but they had turned his powerful armada into helpless wreckage. His remaining ships were scattered and demoralized. "All ships retreat," he finally ordered. "Full retreat." But the humans were not finished hunting. As his ships tried to escape, the human vessels pursued them with relentless determination. They did not let a single ship reach the edge of the system. One by one, they disabled the fleeing vessels and left them drifting in space. The last ship to be caught was Zexthul's own flagship. The 3 human ships surrounded it and somehow managed to disable its engines without damaging anything else. As his ship slowly spun in space, helpless, Captain Chen's voice came through the communications again. "Hive Lord Zexthul, you and your crews are now prisoners of war. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." "What do you want?" Zexthul demanded. "Information," she replied. "We want to know everything about your empire, where your other fleets are, how many worlds you have conquered, how many people you have enslaved. Everything. I will tell you nothing." "That is your choice," Captain Chen said pleasantly. "But I should mention that humans have been interrogating prisoners for a very long time. We are quite good at it." The way she said "quite good" made Zexthul's shell crawl with fear. As human soldiers in strange black armor boarded his ship, Zexthul realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought he was attacking weak farmers defended by a few primitive warriors. Instead, he had attacked farmers who were protected by the most efficient predators he had ever encountered. The humans had defeated his entire fleet without losing a single ship. They had done it while playing music and making jokes, and now they were looking at him with those forward-facing predator eyes and asking questions about his empire. For the first time in his life, Hive Lord Zexthul understood what it felt like to be prey. The battlefield was silent except for the soft sounds of rescue ships moving between the drifting Vexi vessels. Veltar stood on the observation deck of his station, trying to understand what he was seeing. In less than 6 hours, 3 human ships had defeated an armada that had conquered dozens of worlds. The Vexi fleet floated helplessly in space, their ships intact but powerless. Not a single vessel had been destroyed. Not a single crew member had been killed, as far as anyone could tell. It was the most terrifying display of military power Veltar had ever witnessed. "Sir," Thylosa reported from behind him, "the humans are requesting permission to bring prisoners aboard our station." "How many prisoners?" "All of them, sir. Every surviving Vexi in the fleet. Captain Chen says they need to conduct interviews." Interviews. Veltar had learned to be afraid of the way humans used simple words to describe terrible things. 2 hours later, the main cargo bay of the defense station had been converted into a temporary prison. Hundreds of Vexi soldiers and officers stood in organized groups, guarded by human soldiers in black armor. The insects looked broken. Their usual arrogant posture was gone. Many of them seemed to be having trouble standing upright. "What is wrong with them?" Veltar asked Captain Chen as they walked through the prison area. "Psychological shock," she replied matter-of-factly. "Hive mind species do not handle surprise attacks very well. When their group confidence is broken, individuals have trouble functioning." As they spoke, Veltar noticed something that made his stomach feel sick. The human guards were not just watching the prisoners. They were studying them, like scientists examining interesting animals, or like predators deciding which prey to hunt first. "Captain, what exactly do you plan to do with these prisoners?" "Extract information," she said. "The Vexi Empire has been expanding for decades. We need to know how large it is, where their other fleets are located, and what their plans are for this region of space." "And if they refuse to talk?" Captain Chen looked at him with those calm predator eyes. "Ambassador, humans have been questioning prisoners for thousands of years. We have developed very effective methods." She led him to a smaller room where 3 human soldiers were talking to a Vexi officer. The insect was strapped to a chair, but he did not appear to be physically harmed. Instead, the humans were simply talking to him in quiet voices. "Tell us about the fleet stationed at Nexus 7, one of the soldiers was saying. "I will tell you nothing," the Vexi replied, but his voice was shaking. "That is unfortunate," the soldier said pleasantly, "because if you do not help us, we will have to ask someone else. And we really prefer to get our information from officers rather than common soldiers. Officers understand the big picture better." "What do you mean?" "Well, we have over 3,000 prisoners from your fleet. If you will not talk to us, we will have to talk to all of them, one by one, starting with the lowest-ranking soldiers and working our way up. It will take a long time, but we are very patient." The Vexi officer's compound eyes widened. "You cannot do that. It would take weeks." "Actually, we have nothing else planned for the next few weeks," another soldier said helpfully. "And we find that common soldiers are much more willing to talk than officers. They are not trained to resist questioning the way you are." Veltar watched in fascination as the insect's resistance began to crumble. The humans were not torturing him. They were not even threatening him. They were simply explaining in calm, reasonable voices that they would systematically question every member of his fleet until someone gave them the information they wanted. "The psychological pressure is incredible," Captain Chen explained quietly. "Hive mind species depend on group identity. The idea that their subordinates might betray information they are trying to protect is almost unbearable. But you are not actually going to question 3,000 prisoners, are you?" "If we have to," she replied. "Though I expect we will not need to. Officer Krintal will tell us what we want to know within the next hour." She was right. 53 minutes later, the Vexi officer was providing detailed information about Vexi fleet positions, supply lines, and military plans. He talked for 4 straight hours, giving the humans everything they wanted to know. "How did you know he would break?" Veltar asked. "Experience," Lieutenant Patel replied. "Hive mind species have predictable psychological patterns. Apply the right pressure in the right way and they always break." As more prisoners were questioned, a disturbing picture began to emerge. The Vexi Empire was much larger than anyone had realized. They had conquered 47 worlds and enslaved billions of people. They had 3 more major fleets like the one the humans had just defeated, and they were planning to expand into Confederation space within the next year. "This is worse than we thought," Veltar said after reviewing the intelligence reports. "Actually, this is very good news," Captain Chen replied. "Good news? They have 3 more fleets." "Yes, but now we know where those fleets are, and we know their plans." She turned to him with that calm predator expression. "Ambassador, the Vexi Empire is finished. They just do not know it yet." "What do you mean?" "We can end this threat permanently. No more Vexi raids, no more conquered worlds, no more enslaved populations. Her voice was still calm and pleasant, but something in her eyes made Veltar step backward. But I should warn you, our methods might be more comprehensive than what you are used to. Comprehensive how? Commander Williams spoke up. We would need to strike their military bases, destroy their fleet construction facilities, and eliminate their command structure. Complete strategic defeat. That sounds reasonable, Veltar said, though something about the way the humans were discussing it made him nervous. There is one more thing, Captain Chen added. Some of their worlds are pure military installations. No civilians, just soldiers and weapons factories. Those installations would need to be completely destroyed to prevent them from rebuilding. And the people on those worlds? Enemy combatants, she replied. Military personnel who have been conquering and enslaving peaceful species for decades. Veltar felt cold. The humans were talking about wiping out entire worlds of enemy soldiers. Not just defeating them, but eliminating them completely. Captain, that sounds like genocide. No, she said firmly. Genocide is what the Vexi have been doing to peaceful species. This would be war, complete war, fought to ensure that this threat never rises again. But surely some of them could be reformed, educated, turned away from conquest. The three human officers looked at each other. Lieutenant Patel spoke carefully. Ambassador, in our experience, some predator species can be reformed. Others cannot. The Vexi have been conquering and enslaving for over a century. Their entire culture is built around expansion and domination. They will not stop unless they are stopped permanently. What about their colonies? Their civilian populations? Most Vexi colonies are military installations or slave labor camps, Captain Chen replied. True civilian populations are rare in their empire. But where they exist, we would offer them the opportunity to surrender and accept supervision. Supervision. Another word that sounded pleasant but probably meant something terrible. Captain, I need to discuss this with the Confederation Council. This is a much larger decision than just defending our world. Of course, she agreed. Take all the time you need. But I should mention that while you are deciding, the Vexi are probably preparing to avenge this defeat. Their other fleets will come looking for us. And when they do, they will be much more careful about underestimating human capabilities. As Veltar left the meeting, his mind was spinning. The humans had saved his world, but now they were offering to destroy an entire empire. They spoke of mass destruction with the same calm tone they used to discuss the weather. And worst of all, everything they said made perfect logical sense. The Vexi Empire was a threat to every peaceful species in the galaxy. They would not stop conquering unless they were stopped permanently. The humans had the power to end this threat forever. But did that make it right? And what kind of beings were humans? That they could plan the destruction of billions of enemies without showing any emotion at all. Veltar realized that his people had called for help and help had come. But the help had arrived in the form of predators so efficient that they made the Vexi Empire look like helpless prey. The question now was whether predators who could destroy entire empires would remember to protect the farmers who had asked for their help. The Confederation Council had been debating for 18 hours. Representatives from all 7 member species sat around the circular table, their voices growing more strained with each passing hour. The question before them was simple. Should they allow the humans to destroy the Vexi Empire? Veltar listened to the arguments and felt his hearts growing heavy. Elder Morthek of the Heron spoke for the pacifist faction. We cannot become party to genocide, the old engineer said firmly. If we allow these humans to exterminate an entire species, how are we better than the Vexi themselves? Because we are not doing it for conquest, replied Counselor Yelandra of the Dalian. We are doing it for survival. The Vexi will never stop. They have proven this over decades of expansion. But surely there must be another way, insisted Representative Quinn of the Quintal. Some peaceful solution. Veltar stood slowly. As the ambassador who had first made contact with the humans, his words carried special weight. I have spent the last day watching these humans work, he said. I have seen how they question prisoners, how they plan military operations, how they discuss the destruction of entire worlds. And I have come to understand something important about them. The council chamber fell silent. They are not like us, Veltar continued. They think about war and death the way we think about farming and building. It does not disturb them because it is what they were created for. But there is something else, something I did not understand until today. He paused, choosing his words carefully. They are not asking for our permission to destroy the Vexi Empire. They are asking for our permission to show mercy. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. What do you mean? Elder Morthek asked. I mean that if we say no, they will leave. And when the Vexi come back with reinforcements, they will come back to find us defenseless. The humans will not stay to protect us if we reject their methods. They will go back to their own space and let us face the consequences of our choice. The implications of this sank in slowly. Without human protection, the Confederation would face the full revenge of the Vexi Empire, and this time the insects would not underestimate their opponents. They are giving us a choice, Veltar continued. Accept their protection and the methods that come with it, or face the Vexi alone. That is not a choice, Representative Quinn protested. That is extortion. No, Veltar replied. It is reality. The humans did not create this situation. The Vexi did. We are simply being asked to face the consequences of the world we live in. The vote was close. 4 species voted to accept human protection. 3 voted against, by the narrowest possible margin. The Confederation chose survival over moral purity. Captain Chen received the decision with the same calm expression she wore for everything else. We appreciate your trust, she said simply. We will begin operations immediately. What followed was the most efficient military campaign in galactic history. Human forces struck the Vexi Empire on 12 different fronts simultaneously. Their attacks were perfectly coordinated and utterly devastating. The first target was the Vexi Military Academy on Conquest Prime. The planet was home to 50 million Vexi soldiers in training, along with their instructors and support staff. It was also completely devoted to military purposes, with no civilian population. The humans destroyed it in 4 hours. They used weapons that turned the planet's surface into glass, but they gave the inhabitants 6 hours warning to evacuate. Most chose to fight instead. The few thousand who surrendered were taken prisoner. The second target was the main fleet construction facility at Iron Ring Station. The humans disabled the massive space station and captured it intact, along with the 23 incomplete warships under construction. They offered the workers the choice of imprisonment or supervised relocation to neutral worlds. Most chose relocation. One by one, the military installations of the Vexi Empire fell to human forces. The campaign was swift, precise, and terrifyingly effective. The humans used minimal force necessary to achieve their objectives, but they never hesitated to use overwhelming force when minimal force was not enough. The end came when human forces reached the Vexi homeworld of Dominion. The planet held 2 billion Vexi, including the Empire's leadership and most of its civilian population. The humans surrounded the planet and sent a simple message. Surrender unconditionally or face the consequences. The Vexi government chose to fight. They activated planetary defenses and prepared for a siege that they expected to last months. It lasted 3 days. The humans did not attack the planet directly. Instead, they systematically destroyed every ship that tried to leave, every satellite in orbit, and every space-based facility around the world. They cut Dominion off from the rest of the galaxy completely. Then they waited. On the 3rd day, the Vexi government sent a message. We surrender. The terms of surrender were harsh but not genocidal. The Vexi Empire was dissolved. Their military forces were disbanded. Their conquered worlds were liberated. The species was placed under human supervision for 50 years, during which time they would be taught new ways of living that did not involve conquering their neighbors. Some Vexi colonies chose to flee to distant parts of the galaxy rather than accept supervision. The humans let them go, but with a warning: if you return to your old ways, we will find you. 6 months after the battle for Serenity Prime, Veltar stood once again on the observation deck of his station. But now, instead of watching enemy ships approach, he was watching human patrol vessels making their rounds through Confederation space. Ambassador, Captain Chen said, joining him at the window. I wanted to discuss our future arrangements. What kind of arrangements? Protection agreements, trade partnerships, cultural exchange programs. She smiled, and for the first time it looked like a real smile instead of a predator's expression. We would like to be friends with the Confederation, not just protectors. And what would you want in return? Food, she said simply. Your agricultural technology is incredible. We would like to learn from you. and perhaps teach you some things in return. What could apex predators teach farmers? How to protect what you have built, she replied. Not everyone in the galaxy is as peaceful as the Confederation. There are other predator species out there. Some of them are much worse than the Vexi. As they talked, Veltar realized something that surprised him. Despite everything he had seen, the efficient destruction of enemy fleets, the cold planning of military campaigns, the casual discussion of weapons that could destroy worlds, he was no longer afraid of the humans. They were predators, yes. They were dangerous beyond imagination. But they were predators who had chosen to hunt other predators instead of prey. They were shepherds, not wolves. Captain, he said finally, there is something I have been wondering about. Why did you really come to help us? You traveled across the galaxy to fight strangers' battles. Why? Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. Because that is what humans do, she said. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is not always easy, and it is not always pretty. Sometimes we have to do terrible things to terrible people. But that is the choice we made long ago when we first left our death world and saw what the galaxy was like. What choice? To be shepherds instead of wolves. To use our strength to protect the weak instead of preying on them. She looked out at the peaceful ships moving through space. The galaxy is full of wolves, Ambassador. Someone has to keep the sheep safe. As the months passed, the truth of her words became clear. Human patrol ships appeared wherever peaceful species were threatened. Pirates found their bases destroyed overnight. Slavers discovered that their ships simply vanished. Aggressive empires learned that expansion toward human-protected space was impossible. The galaxy's peaceful species began to call it the human peace. For the first time in galactic history, farmers and artists and philosophers could build their civilizations without fear of predators. And in the depths of space, aboard ships built for war but used for protection, humans continued their eternal watch. They had become the apex predators of the galaxy, and they had chosen to use that power to hunt only those who preyed on others. They were the Deathworlders who had become the galaxy's guardians. And for all the peaceful species trying to build better worlds among the stars, that made all the difference. The farmers were safe. The shepherds were watching. And the wolves had learned to fear the darkness between the stars, where human ships moved silent as ghosts and patient as death, waiting for predators foolish enough to threaten the innocent. The Confederation had asked for help. The Deathworlders of Earth had answered. And the galaxy would never be the same.